Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is apply the seam allowances to the actual tracing, which will then turn it into a piece. So I'm just going to move this out of the way. So this is half scale. Normally we apply, when we're doing full scale, 1 centimetre all the way around and 2 centimetres at the hem, but because it's half scale, then we have to do half the values. So using our pattern masters, which are a fantastic piece of equipment, you can see you've got 1/2 centimetre here, and then 1 centimetre, 2 centimetres, etc. So this is what we use. So placing our pattern master on the actual line for 1/2 centimetre, we can draw a nice quick seam allowance like so. So I'm just going to work around the pattern like that. Spinning it round and down the centre front also. Just taking my time to set myself up correctly like that. Then we've got a curve. This is where you use the inside of the pattern master. So I'm just going to move that just down a little bit so I can see. So you can sit that curve nicely on there up to about that point, so I can draw that in. Moving the curve, and it does take a bit of practice, so it is patience and practice to get your shapes till you're happy. This has to be 90 degrees as mentioned before, and then this little bit we can just curve in by hand. It's the same with your armhole. Just quickly do that for you just so you can see how you move the pattern master around until you get a nice fit. Turning it again. This is almost straight at that point. Just to there. Curving it again on this little bit. Now what you have to be careful of, obviously here, if I just finish joining that up, just bear with me. Can you see I'm also not sketching like that? It's meant to be a nice single line. Finding this little bit. Okay, what you have to be aware of here is the notch. You wouldn't want to cut right into the cloth here. You would only want your notch to be halfway into the seam allowance like that. So this is the little bit that you would cut there. And we have the hem, which has got to be 1 centimetre. So again, applying your pattern master down here for 1 centimetre up to about that point. Maybe we use a slight curve at that point, coming into a straight angle there. So that's that. Now if I can just show you the toile again. When we have a garment, and we have darts obviously give us the fit. These are the triangular bits. These pieces of cloth, the folding bits, are these bits here. This is the cloth. And what we always want is this fabric to be folding down the garment, or if you look at the back, folding to the sides. And the same if you look at this front one here, the fabric is folding to the sides. It gives you a really nice fit to the body, so always down and to the sides. And this is the same principles with waistbands and on your trousers or your skirts. So with that in mind, and I will just show you on this example just to help explain. This is our waist dart that I've traced off from the original draft. And the rule is you always pick the leg of the dart nearest the side seam in order to create the fold. So if I just turn this, this is how you do it. You pick up your paper piece like so and just gently fold it on the dart leg. You don't go up to the apex. Then you actually sit your pattern on top of each other, so a leg on top of each other, and then you can fold your paper. Then if you look on the inside of bearing in mind this is my side seam, you can see that my fabric is folding towards the side seam. So that's the rule. You pick the dart leg up nearest the side seam and sit it on to this. And I'll do that again in a second just to show you. But here, the question is, let me just show you here, well, which dart leg is nearest the side seam? Because they're both going to the side seam. So this is where I expect to see students picking up either side and trying it out. And when I'm marking patterns, if I don't see a student has actually tried out folding the paper, then I know they've probably traced off somebody else and they don't know the process. So I'm looking for folds in your patterns. So actually the rule is it's this bottom one that you sit onto the top one. And you can see how your side seam comes together and all of a sudden it looks like a straight side seam. So I folded my paper, and it's at this point when I've folded my paper, and if I just turn it around and show you there, you can see that the fold is going down the garment. It's at this point when you've got it folded, and it is tricky, you know, so a bit of masking tape may help. So while it's folded like that, hold it with your fingers nice and firm, and that's when you can cut. So now I'm just cutting down the seam allowance nice and steady through the fold, and then when I open up my pattern, just move that out of the way, you can see you get this lovely shape, and that is correct. That's what you're after. And what you would actually do here is, so that you know, and if I just trim that a little bit off, what you would actually do is you would put notches on these positions as well as in the armhole, and I'll show you how to do that. So with a notch that's got an angle to it on a dart, you cut halfway into the seam allowance, following the angle of the leg, and then snip into it at an angle. So on the inside part where the cloth is, that's where your angle will come. On this side, following the angle of the leg, halfway, and then cut into it. Like so. With the armhole, let me just cut down here. Moving your paper, keeping your scissors in the same position. You can twist your paper so you get a nice line, because we don't want jagged cutting, like that. And again with this, because we haven't got an angle to go with, you snip down the centre of the notch, like that, snip into it either side. There is a notcher that you can buy. They cost about, I don't know, £20. I've had mine since I was a student, and they're a really good piece of equipment. So obviously I would go around, cut all that out, and that would give me my piece. Now the last thing you need to think about is the finish of the garment. This is going to be your hem. This is your seam allowance, but this is your hem line. So inside the garment, we are going to actually fold the hem back up like this. So what you do in order to get the correct fold in here, and I will just show you what I mean, you fold back your hem like that. So now we're thinking, right, that's what the garment would look like in the end. It'd be, you know, the seam would be on the inside. And you get your scissors, you cut down the seam allowance while it's folded, like that. And then what you get is this extra little bit of a kick. And that is what you want, because if you didn't have that, and I'll show you one that is wrong, if you didn't have that, what you would actually get if you folded the line up, you'd have this little bit missing. And when you overlocked your garments together and sewed it together, that would cause a fray and your garment would be ruined and it wouldn't fit together properly. So you do literally fold back, cut down that little bit, and then it adds you that extra little bit on, just like we've got there. So that's what you have to consider on all of your sleeves. If you think about a sleeve, it's narrower here, then it goes wider. You'd have to do that on these side seams. Same with the trouser leg as well. So that is a piece. Now the last thing that we have to apply would be our piece information. So, because we like our pattern pieces to be nice and neat, using your pattern master, draw yourself some lines like so, until you get into the habit of doing this, and then you can do it freehand. But write in capital letters, block letters, using your black fine liner, and then we want your name first and foremost, the piece name, the sample size, which would be a 12 if we were doing it full size, and then the cut detail. So your name obviously is your name. The piece name will, because we are creating a front that has two fronts to it, they're both different just for the exercise, call this one, for example, FRT, and call this one FRT1, just to differentiate them. Sample size 12, and then the cut detail. Now if both of these sides were the same, like the sleeves are, it could be cut one pair. If you think about a pair of shoes, you would need one either side of the body, but it's the same piece. Our fronts normally would be, if they were the same, cut one pair, but because we're making two different fronts, this would be cut one. So we've actually got notches there, notch in the armhole, seam allowance all the way around, all the written information, the piece information on there, and that is creating a pattern piece.